What's up guys, Misha here. I'm going to show you how I go about recording guitars. And I'm going to do it using this Focusrite Scarlett 2i2 interface. You can actually get good results with pretty inexpensive interfaces. This one's actually USB powered, so it's very portable as well. You can record up to 96 kilohertz, 24-bit. I'm going to be recording at 44.1 just because that's how I like to do it, but I'm in 24-bit right now. Obviously I'm using my Jackson Custom Shop 6-string. It's got bare knuckle juggernauts, and I'm running to my AxeFX 2, and that is just going direct, as you can see here, direct into the inputs. So that is the rig that we are going to be using. We are going into a Mac with Cubase 6 on it right now. So first things first, what I like to do is, especially when I'm using a new patch or whatever, I want to make sure I have my levels right, and that means no clipping. Now this actually has a very useful tool for that. See those halos there? That's glowing green. That's mean that you are safe. Now if you turn this up, as you can see, go orange and eventually red. Red means you're clipping. Although that may not be audibly apparent, there is clipping going on there, and it'll just get worse as you do it. So to get an ideal signal to noise ratio, you want to get it right to the point where it just kind of starts going into the green there. Now, signal to noise ratio, that's important. If you have a low signal like this, for example, you'll be in the green safely no matter what, but you won't be getting the most efficient signal. There'll be a little bit of noise relative to your total output. So that is the reason why I like to set it just before it clips. Now here's an interesting thing, especially if you're using heavier tones. You want to check that your signal that has the most amount of output isn't going to clip. So in this case, a palm mute's a very effective way of testing that. Now you'll notice, like, there, let's see, get it like that. We're in the green, but palm mutes are sending it into the red. Super basic palm mutes. So that's why I want to roll back a little bit and basically just make sure that the loudest setting I'm going to have isn't going to send it into clipping. Now, the other thing that you'll want to check, and this is on your screen, you probably have an input monitor like this, right there. You can see it's not clipping there. I can adjust it a little bit. Obviously there, it's clipping. So, you know, this just takes a little bit of tweaking because you want to ensure that you're right at the threshold. It's nice and bassy. I mean, it sounds terrible, but the idea is that you want to get as much low end. Low end obviously uses up a lot of the headroom, so that's what I'm using to test. Oh, and we're actually clipping a little bit here, so I'm going to roll off back. It's a good test. Now this has line and instrument inputs. So the line inputs are what you would use if you're plugging in something like a preamp or whatever, something that already has volume to it that you can adjust it on. The instrument inputs are what you would use if you were going to just go in directly, like if you're going to plug your guitar directly into there, go DI and use a software amp or something like that. So that's a distinction. That's why both of these are currently online. Now, a really cool feature with this is this direct monitoring feature, which is making my life very easy. Now, if you turn that off, you can actually just monitor through the software. Now, that has its advantages because it's actually going through the whole mix here, you know, out to the stereo out when you do that. But the reason I don't like it is just because there's a little bit of latency at all times. It is cool to sort of dial in tones, but the latency kind of throws me off a little bit. So this feature is really cool. You're not going through the software at all. It's just directly going out, so no latency at all. For tracking, I find that to be very nice, especially parts that need to be tracked with some precision. Over here we have the phantom power, which we're obviously not using, but if you were miking up a condenser mic or two, it would send phantom power and power up your mic for you. And then obviously this is my level control here. This is how I set how loud I want my mix to be. And you have a separate headphone control here. Sometimes it's nice to track with headphones, especially for detailed parts. So you can switch that off or whatever, set this to whatever level you want and just put these on and have an independent headphone volume level there. So I've dialed in this tone here using the Friedman model, and it's sounding pretty good. And I've actually like pre-recorded a couple riffs. Just deleted the guitar. So the drums are programmed, the bass is good to go. I'm going to mute the bass because I find it a little bit distracting when I'm trying to track. So what I do for setting up my tracks, as you can see here, I've got left and right track. These are hard panned all the way. And double tracking is kind of an important thing. If you don't know too much about recording, probably all the modern rock and metal recordings you listen to have double track guitars. Now a lot of people ask if you could just do one performance and just copy it over to the other track, and the answer is no, you can't. That would make life kind of awesome, but unfortunately you would just end up with a centered track that's louder. So you have to do two individual performances, and it's actually the slight differences between those performances that creates that cool wide effect that double track guitars have. So let me double track this riff and show you how I go about it. We have all our levels set, and it looks like on our guitar channel we have nothing right now going, and this guitar tone might actually just work in the mix the way it is. So let's give this a shot. Get the click going for this. Anyways, that's one repetition of the riff. I don't mind copying, pasting if it's the same riff and the same tempo. But what I like to do is just play the first few notes of the next repetition just so it flows a little better. And let's get the other side now. Go. As you can hear, you get this cool double track sound here, as opposed to if we were to copy and paste this center guitar, as I said. So that's the beauty of it. So let's trim this up a little bit here, and we just cut the end off right here. And this is a cool feature. I'm sure any DAW that you're going to use has this, but you just duplicate, bam, you've got another copy. That sounds pretty good. Let's unmute the bass and see if this works. Sounds pretty good. With quad tracking, I find that you lose a little bit of the transient detail, but that you do get this cool sort of washy sound as a result. And the bass, I feel like the bass will usually cut through the mix a little bit cleaner with double track guitars. But here, let's try it with this riff, and you can hear for yourself. We'll just do the first half, and we can kind of get a comparison. Alright, so I just did like the first half of that riff, just so that you can hear a direct comparison. So what I generally do when I'm quad tracking is I will lower the volume of two or if not all the tracks, just so I get sort of the same perceived volume as I started out with. You can just do that by ear by taking these and clip gaining them down a bit. So let's try, I don't know, like dB or so. Yeah. So as you can hear, it has a different aesthetic. It's not like a night or day difference, but guitarists will probably notice. And something else I like to do is you can see that these ones are panned left 79, right 79. So I like to bring those in a little bit. It occupies a slightly different space and a bit more of the center channel. So that's quad tracking. That's, you know, you can hear it's not like an earth-shattering difference, but it is a cool little effect, and it is something that I like to use as a tool sometimes. So the problem that you have, the problem that I have a little bit is that when you're dialing in a tone, you're hearing it in the center, and double track tones don't always retain the exact quality. In fact, you'll find that they get a little bit smoother, so you can get away with slightly brighter tones, and that's why I've said a lot that my recording tones aren't necessarily the best tones to jam on. They're really suited to the mix. But you know, a tone that would work well in the center might sound a little bit dull if you double tracked with it. So, for example, so if I were to just record this riff here. So that on its own, right there. And actually, let me double track that so we can do an easy comparison. So this is how it sounds centered. But if we were to, actually let me edit this just a little bit, just to make moving it around a little bit easier. So yeah. That's a tone by itself, but double tracked and panned full sounds like. So it's actually like a little bit smoother, as you can hear, and that's something that you kind of have to just dial as you go along. So what I'll do is I'll listen and I'll be like, that I could probably use a little bit more top end to it or something. So I'll dial it in and then I'll double track it. So it is a bit of a process. That's kind of how I go about it. I'm sure there's probably easier ways to do it, but that's just the way how I know to do it. Once you're done with that, what you can do then is you can EQ. So like we've got just the track EQ here. And I like to EQ with at least drums or something, you know, so I can get a sense of how it's working in the mix. I think I've found some preset stuff that works. So this is actually a low pass here. It's kind of cutting off the top end, but it's kind of doing a little boost here as well. Here's a little cut at 3800 or so. Kind of smoothing out the top end there. And then here we have a high pass. Just, you know, let the low end kind of fade out. Let the bass do its job, kind of thing. Tightens up the low end, and then, you know, we check that against the bass, make sure that works. Ooh, wrong duplication point there. With that, I could bring up this. all in all, it's sounding pretty decent there, and that's basically how I go about recording guitars. Hopefully that answered some questions about my process and how I go about plugging everything in, nailing everything in. There you go.